Welcome back to the Fans of the Home Team podcast.
I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Miranda. This is a podcast that talks about the fun, the drama, and the effects that sports teams and athletes bring to the world, whether good or bad.
This is a podcast for the people who care about sports in a deeper way than who won or who lost. It's for the people who love the feel-good stories behind teams and athletes and realize that sports are just more than a game.
So, as we mentioned in our season 2 trailer, today's episode is going to be a little something different than what we've done in the past, but we're going to talk about some current events in sports, as this all originated of being surrounded in sports, obviously. Fans of the home team get it. So, not much results on the field, but things that are happening in the world revolving around the sports industry and some of those top stories.
So 4 of the main topics we're discussing today is sports streaming, sports betting, Jeff Saturday's hire as the Colts interim head coach, and then Brittney Griner being transferred to a penal colony in Russia. So let's jump right into the sports streaming topic. Netflix is looking to get into the live sports game, as I think everybody else in the industry is doing as well. And they're starting to quietly bid on some smaller leagues and rights. A couple that were reported were the World Surf League and then some tennis tours. But how do you feel about Netflix kind of jumping into this game?
Unnecessary. Obviously, it's a business move because for the first time they've recorded a decline in subscribers. But I think that's because of a lot of other things. And I don't think necessarily adding sports is going to help them. One of them being that stupid thing where you can't share your password anymore.
That's tough. I think they're going to lose some people, and rightfully so.
I'm pretty sure in the next couple months or by 2023, they're going to roll out where they charge you for sharing your password. Yes, I'm 28 years old, but I'm not paying for my own Netflix right now. I pay for all the other ones. And I think that's another part of Netflix's issue is that there's all these other streaming services, obviously competition, that are putting out, I wouldn't say better content, but I don't know. Netflix has just been slacking, and I'm not sure if sports is going to help it. But also on the flip side, I saw they're interested in more the smaller sports. So tennis, surfing, like that could be cool.
I think they're only interested in those things, though, because a lot of the bigger leagues and events are tied right now in longer term deals. So I think they probably think, oh, we'll just do this. And then when something big, I don't know, the Olympics or the EPL opens up, we'll just hop on that. I don't blame them for wanting to get into sports, but I don't think it, like you said, it solves the actual problem of why they're losing subscribers.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's bigger fish to fry than trying to add sports to their resume. But I will say, because in the article too, it does mention the Formula One show that they have, the Netflix series. And I know I can count multiple people who got into Formula One because of that Netflix show. So on that hand, for sport, it could be really cool and really great because you're opening people's minds and giving them easier access to sporting events that they probably may have never would have watched before because it isn't those big NFL, Olympics, college football, all of that stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. I wouldn't hate it. I mean, if it drives the price up even more, then I'm totally out. Not that I pay for it. Sorry, Mom. But they also do like Last Chance U, and they do have sports content. So it's not like they're totally out of the game, but it's interesting to see. I don't really like how everything's being shifted to different streaming sites. Like you said, I don't love the Thursday night football thing with Amazon. I hate it. It drives me absolutely crazy. I pay too much for Hulu Live TV to have to switch over to something else to watch an NFL game.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, sometimes just thinking, because you brought up Hulu, Derek and I have watched a few hockey games on there. But there's only certain ones that come up. So then it creates a challenge because it's like, oh, it's on cable or, oh, it's on ESPN. So it's blocked out here or blah, blah, blah. Or you have to have the NHL network and that's another subscription. Okay. what are we doing? Everything should be streamlined into one place. Or, yeah, I don't know. Because, like you said, I haven't watched Thursday Night Football at all this season.
Well, the matchups are terrible, so
That's
at
true.
least you're not missing anything. My mom pays for Amazon Prime and somehow gets onto my account. I sound like such a freeloader right now, which I am. She's gonna start charging me now after she hears this podcast. But I don't have like it doesn't. I don't know how I have Prime on Amazon, but I don't have the Prime Video. I don't know. So I'm watching Thursday Night Football on Twitch, and Twitch on our smart TV is very laggy, so it's just lagging the entire time while I'm watching the Broncos lose like 13-9 in the fourth quarter. So I'm not a huge fan, but it's an 11-year deal. So here we are.
11 years?
Yes, 11-year exclusive deal.
I don't think I realized that. Oh, that's rough. But again, I don't know. I can see it from both sides because from a sports perspective, it's cool that it's on Amazon, like all different places to watch the NFL throughout the entire season. But from a fan perspective, it's annoying because Thursday night, Amazon, and then Sunday you're watching on either cable or other streaming platforms, and then Monday night back to cable.
For now, we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. For now.
Who knows?
But I also think that's just how the NFL broke it up because, again, they do have their Thursday night, Sunday, Monday. And I don't see the NFL ever going on Netflix. I'm so contradicting myself right now. But I feel like you would need a popular sport on Netflix in order for it to be beneficial to them.
Right. I guess it would depend what Netflix was willing to pay, but seems like they're
They're
into
losing money.
cracking down. Yeah, that they're trying to nickel and dime their customers, so I don't think they have NFL money like Jeff Bezos does.
No, and I think that Netflix should focus on what they're good at and focus more on their original series and not so much all these bullshit movies that they keep putting out. And I think it should be focused on getting some more nostalgia shows or something. I rarely watch Netflix as much as I once did.
Yeah, well, once they started losing every single show I wanted to watch, I was like, what are we doing this for? But I'm not paying for it, so
Yeah, no,
I still
like,
watch.
not gonna complain. And I'm still looking forward to some of their original shows that they have.
I wonder how much it would cost if you had every single streaming platform, how much it would cost you per month.
Like, you individually.
Yeah, like you had Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, Discovery, Paramount,
Disney
all of them.
Plus.
HBO Max, all of them.
I will say the only ones that I personally I paid for Hulu because the bundle, Hulu, Disney Plus, and ESPN Plus, which that just went up in
Yep.
price. Only $1, but
Uh,
still, I see you. We both pay for Amazon Prime, which we should probably figure that out because I don't know why we're both paying for that.
Unnecessary.
Yes, and then I think that's it, but we do have HBO Max, we have Paramount Plus now, and we have Netflix, but we do pay for Peacock as well. So that's like 4 streaming services, and I'm sure they're probably like $15 each a month.
You could get really high up there if you had absolutely everything.
Yeah,
Remember when everyone was cutting cords and now we're just broke
I
instead?
knew this was gonna happen. I knew it.
You knew it. You called it from 2014.
Yes, like I feel how old was I? Yeah, I was a sophomore in college. I knew what I was talking about that.
I'm sure. I believe you.
But whatever. Anyways, Netflix, maybe focus on not charging people for sharing their password instead of adding sports to your resume because that's why you're losing subscribers. And your content hasn't been the best.
They need to do a SWOT analysis.
Yeah, they do. What is that again?
Just strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. MBA talk.
Yeah, I
Since
literally asked you that last week and already forgot it.
the one thing I learned from our MBA program. That's not true, but that's all I can remember right now. Anyways, next topic. Sports betting. So election day was 2 days ago. We're filming this on Thursday, November 10th. California had sports betting on the ballot, and only 16% of people voted yes on this. And it absolutely blows my mind. I, for the life of me, cannot figure out why sports betting is illegal anywhere.
Yeah, I was shocked by this because I didn't know this was on their ballot and I didn't know this happened because I was a little too focused on my own state. And when you sent me this article, I was shocked that it only got 16% with nearly $600 million had been raised in an effort to legalize sports betting.
Exactly.
So it had significant financial backing.
I'm confused because typically you see you see more liberal blue states that have sports betting and the red states don't. Florida doesn't. Ohio's getting ours in January legally. Pennsylvania has it. I just feel like the blue states are more apt to have it. So for a very blue state to totally shoot this down, I'm not really sure what the messaging was to voters against it, but I'm just really confused.
So I thought it was interesting how it said, because same thing, I was curious what was the reasoning behind it being shot down so quickly. And there's a quote from that one of the tribal chairmen told the Associated Press. Voters have real and significant concerns about turning every cell phone, laptop, and tablet into a gambling device. The resulting addiction and exposure to children.
I mean, any state you can download an online poker app and do the same shit.
Yeah, and I feel like this is kind of like that argument that it reminds me more back in the day when video games became so popular, but people bring it up all the time about if kids are playing violent video games, and that means they will be violent people, essentially. And I feel like that's almost kind of the similar argument they're making here with gambling is if a kid downloads the app, they're going to have a gambling addiction. And again, I think it comes down to the parents and making sure, like, in the know about what their kids are up to. And I'm sure there's parental controls on cell phones, or you can't download this app if you don't have the right password, or I don't know. I'm sure there's ways around that.
This is such a bold parenting tip for parents, but don't give your children access to credit cards on their
Yeah.
mobile devices. Just a thought. Just a thought.
I don't think I had a credit card until I was in college, and it was really just for emergencies. And then I never had straight access to my parents' cards, if that makes sense. I would always have to ask,
Mhm.
like, "Hey," and they normally would do it for me, or you type it in and give it back, and we're done.
Yeah, I would have been killed if I did something like that.
Same. If I made a bet for, like, even $20. I remember, so back in the day when iTunes was a obviously, you had to pay for music. And, my mom, sh even still to this day, she's very stickler on her credit card statement, and she would go down it at the end of the month and be like, "Who charged 99 cents on iTunes?" Because you had to buy songs or albums and stuff, and she would be
Mhm.
so pissed, and that's why I started using LimeWire and shit like that because I would download it illegally, but I could only imagine making a bet with my parents' credit cards.
Oh, especially if you didn't hit the bet. Especially
Exactly. Be a little different if you won, but yeah, I thought that was an interesting argument that the reasoning behind it is the anxiety about your children becoming addicted to gambling.
okay, maybe this is just me, but I feel like not everybody who said no on that is doing it for kids.
No, there's no way.
I don't vote based on children. Usually, just depends, but I usually vote based on me. I just don't believe that everyone that voted no is like, this is for kids. I don't know. But it said only 4.6 million people in California voted on this prop, which is not a lot of people at all.
No. And again, even it says a proposition that would have legalized sports betting at tribal casinos and horse tracks need less than 30% support. So I think it's like just a larger pushback against gambling as a whole.
It's still at double the support, though, of sports betting, which is
Yeah.
interesting that they didn't poll at the same amount. Who said
Yeah.
yes to that and no to sports betting?
I think because you have to go physically to a place and
Ah,
place your bets, whereas
ah,
this is just like you fully mobile. You can just pull it up on your phone or online, and that's why I think it goes back like why they added in this article from CBS Sports that it's concerned about kids. But I think just maybe concerned about gambling addiction as a whole. I think that people were opposed to the ease of access to it.
In the state where weed is legal? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. Like, if this was from Florida, I'd be like, "Okay, this makes sense." But I think it's the fact that it's coming from California. And, it also says, and not saying that this would have 100% happened because sometimes you don't know where your tax money is going, but it says they had promised to funnel tax revenues to aid the homeless, mentally ill, and poorer tribes if the sports betting bill were to pass.
I'm surprised this went to a vote because in Ohio, we didn't vote on this. The government was just like, "Yeah, we're doing this," because I mean, it leads to a lot of money
Yeah.
coming in. So I'm surprised California wasn't just like, "Let's hop on board," and they just left it up to the people. That's another interesting aspect of it, but whatever. I don't live there. I always say I'm glad I don't live there. Not that I live somewhere extremely better, but still.
Me either. I don't think I'll ever see gambling or sports gambling legalized in Florida, but we'll see. I mean, it says 30 states are on board at this point.
I feel like we could see it in Florida. I think wouldn't you guys just say no though? I think you guys didn't pass it actually pretty recently, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it was in the last, not the presidential election, but the one before that.
Looks like it's going on the 24 ballot. Like,
Sick. Let's see what happens. I'm sure Florida will F it up just like they do with everything else politically. So,
legalize sports betting. That is the stance this podcast is taking.
yeah. So I feel like in a lot of political issues in our society, people want to focus on the minute details rather than the larger problem. So your concern is that people are going to be so locked in online, on their cell phones, on the internet, blah, blah, blah. That's already an issue.
Right. I don't understand why this is even, I don't get why this is an issue at all. Like, people are dying. So, I mean, let's move on to something else.
Yes, and I
Maybe
think,
then,
again, the tax revenue from that would have helped people who are dying, the homeless. And again, there's a huge homeless issue in California, but across the US, and it's only going to get worse. So I don't know. I think it's really interesting that they shot this down, and not just shot it down, but only 16% support.
it's like, nah, fuck no. We're not voting for this.
Yeah.
So,
And maybe we're like being biased right now. So if you have another thought or opinion, argument against it, let us know, because I can't think of many.
I can't wrap my head around it. Do you remember we went to the Man City game and it's legal over there? We had people in the class betting on the game and you could go up to a counter and bet on the over, under, the spread, those types of things. And it was an integral part of the experience for people over there. And it just doesn't make sense why we haven't completely moved that over to the United States yet.
Yeah. And I think, like, even reflecting too, as a kid growing up in New York, we would go to the horse track. I wouldn't say frequently, but a good amount. It's what we would do sometimes. And my dad or my poppy would let us bet on, I usually pick the best name or color, whatever. And we would pick,
Obviously.
like, duh, I don't know anything else. And we would bet, they would place the bet for us. And even growing up for my whole life, my family would get together. We would watch the Kentucky Derby. And my dad would always have us bet on one of the horse. We would tell him, "Oh, we want to bet on this one." And it is different because it's not on my phone, like, as easy of access. And it was through my parents' regulation, but still, I don't have a gambling. I'm like, it was just a fun thing to do. And again, my parents are the one who regulated it and allowed us to do it. So I feel like it's more the responsibility with the adult. Like, a kid shouldn't be having a BetGM app or MGM app or whatever it's called. And I'm almost positive that they have a prompt that comes up that you have to be 18 or older anyway. And I'm sure you have to put in your birthday. There's probably roadblocks on those apps. And then just as a parent, add more roadblocks on your kid's phone, or maybe don't give your kid a smartphone at 10 years old.
Yeah, there's definitely things you can do to prevent your child from gambling online and doing drugs and all those things. So, like, that's on the parents, not the government.
And again, we grew up, our parents raised us in an age where the internet was just becoming a thing. And, like, there was a lot of uncertainties around it. And I had so many restrictions as a kid.
Yeah, we turned out totally fine.
Yeah, we're fine. We don't have gambling.
No gambling addictions here.
No, all
It's
good.
fine.
I literally went to Vegas a few weeks ago for a bachelorette, and I didn't even gamble because I was scared.
I don't like casinos. I think they're sad.
I think a part of it was like I was intimidated because the only game I know how to play is blackjack, and I'm still like, no, I just don't know. And even the slot machines and stuff, I was like, what's going on?
I think they're a sad, windowless place filled with smoke for old, sad people. No offense if you like to go to casinos. That's just the vibe I get from every single one I get to.
Honestly, the casinos in Las Vegas were really cool and fun and
Yeah.
like everywhere. So it feels more natural. But I remember going to the Hard Rock Casino here in Tampa, and I'm just like, this is weird.
The vibes are bad at the Hard
Yeah.
Rock in Tampa.
Yes, I agree. Vegas is a different story, but whatever.
It'll be interesting to see how casinos maneuver when the oldies are gone, because that feels like a large chunk of their client base.
Probably. I will say though, in Vegas there was a huge mix, and it was a lot of young
Yeah.
people.
I think that's just where you go to gamble, you know?
Yeah, it's a
It's
part
just a
of
little
the
different.
experience.
Yeah. When you hit up another state or you go on a cruise ship in their casino, it's the oldies. Big fan of the oldies.
I wonder if the oldies voted for or against this bill.
You would think they are voting for with how much they use the slot machines, but you never know. In conclusion, gamble responsibly, vote yes for sports betting, and this is sports betting friendly podcast because we like sports.
Yes.
Next. What's our next? This was so interesting to me.
This is very interesting.
So the Colts fired their head coach, but they hired Jeff Saturday, who's a really big previous Colts player, center, Pro Bowler, a really good athlete, a really good player for the Colts. Dude's coaching a high school football team, and he's 20-17. And they called him 2 calls, he was hired. I was like, what? He's not even that good of a high school coach, and he's about to coach an NFL team. I couldn't believe it. It's so wild to me.
So I think it's just fascinating because in the article, I read the Yahoo Sports one. It talks about 2 different paths about how this is absolutely ridiculous. But it also says on the flip side, if this works out, that could be really cool. And they talk about how this is basically like, because they bring up Ted Lasso in it, which I haven't seen the show, but obviously I know the premise, and how this is almost right out of a TV or movie. And yeah, if it works out, that it could change. I don't think it'll change the landscape of coaching or anything, but it does plant a seed in your head. Do you really need the experience? I don't know, but
I give this a 1% chance of working out. Ted Lasso is a comedy for a reason.
exactly.
I mean, there are dudes who coach high school to college to a coordinator in the NFL, and they're finally a head coach, and they still suck ass.
Yeah, because they talk
I just-
about, because this came out, Tuesday, so they're going in and playing the Raiders. So they talk about the Raiders head coach and all of his experience and how their team is also terrible as well. I'm just a hopefully optimistic person, especially when it comes to my sports teams, hence why I'm still fans of all the teams I'm still fans of. But anyways, so I'm hoping this works out just for the storyline of it all. Do I think it's going to? Probably not, because like you said, we've had so many coaches who've had years of experience, whether in college football or professionally, and they are not successful. And I think this article kind of reminded me of the whole situation with Deion Sanders and how FSU was obviously looking for a new coach. And everyone was like, Deion Sanders, like, really wanted him, like, so pissed when FSU didn't hire him. And as a fan, I'm like, he doesn't have the experience yet. He obviously is very pivotal in football. He understands the game, one of the best FSU and NFL players of all time. He is a great player, but I don't think he was ready to coach a team. It's very different. And I think because in the article I read, it said how Jeff Saturday is confident in himself as a man and he can lead a team to success and this and that. And I think that's great. And I think the same for Deion Sanders. He's a great leader, very inspirational. I'm sure he could light a fire under the FSU players. But there's a whole other side to coaching with the technicalities and even managing like young athletes. And I think it takes a certain level of experience. So now, obviously, Deion Sanders coaching at Jackson State, and he's doing a great job, and he'll keep gaining that experience to eventually, I would love him to be an FSU football coach. That would be awesome. But I want him to do it when he has the experience. And I just remember, I think it was after FSU LSU, our first game of the season, obviously a huge win for us. And Stephen A. Smith was going off and how he hates FSU and how he's still pissed off that they didn't hire Deion Sanders. And I understand from a diversity standpoint, because this article does talk about how there's an issue in the NFL with hiring black head coaches, and then the Colts hired Jeff Saturday. Why? So I totally get it from that standpoint. But I think you need the experience. And I think it was interesting that this article brought up the lack of black head coaches in the NFL, and that there's plenty who are way more experienced than this guy, but the Colts hired Jeff Saturday. Why?
Yeah, I think it talks about how the Rooney Rule, essentially, which, if you don't know what that is, it's basically a policy in place to make sure that a team interviews at least one or more diverse candidates before making a hire. The rule does not apply to interim head coaches. So he could essentially step into this role as an interim and be great, and they could just promote him and not have to mess with this at all. Not that that's what they're trying to do. I'm sure that's really great lengths to not have to interview a black person, but
Yeah.
it is, it does kind of step that rule as well. And I truly can't see how a person who's coaching a 500 level at the high school level is going to translate with this Colts team with a young quarterback, a shitty offensive line, how this is going to translate into any sort of success. Because I really think they're kind of looking for a miracle, like a Ted Lasso miracle here.
Yeah. Honestly, the end of this article is wild. So it's again talking about the lack of diversity, and it says, because I know how you said it doesn't come into play with an interim job, but basically how everyone is viewing this is like he's going to get hired as a full-time gig no matter what. And it says Jeff Saturday was gifted an interim job, and according to his boss, it's clear there's a not small chance he'll get the job full-time come January. No lines, no waiting. No earning it either. Who needs merit when you're white and friends with the owner?
That's tough. I had read in some other article that they called Jeff Saturday before they fired the previous coach. They had already made the first initial call.
They were already
And
setting it
then
up.
essentially I was like, that's insane. So they've probably had this on their mind. This is my prediction. The Colts will kind of finish out the rest of their season pretty average. They'll probably win just as many as they lose, if not like a 40-60 split. They'll think it's good enough. They'll think it's a start in the right direction, hire him, and it will be a very terrible decision that they'll figure out 3 years down the road when they're racking up first and second picks in the NFL draft.
This just sounds like you are friends with the owner, so you get a job. And even it says like that to the local media. They said, you've got to earn your place here, when Jeff Saturday hasn't earned anything. You don't have any experience. You played with the Colts the last season, I think was 2012. That's not that long ago, to then become the head coach. And they speak about like having to earn the job and blah, 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 blah. But he didn't really earn anything. And I think overall, obviously, this is a poor decision by the Colts from an experience level and coaching level. But I think overall, all aspects of this hire is not a good choice.
Let's give a real world example for the girlies and the boys that are in a 9 to 5 job. They say this in sales: just because you can sell well does not mean you'd be a good sales manager. So let's say you join up a company as an entry level salesperson and you're really good at your job. And the president is your dad, and he essentially hires you to be the vice president of the sales team. That's exactly what this is.
Yeah. Of like, it's like nepotism, but they're not related.
Exactly. That's pretty much what it is. That's the type of career jump we've made here.
Yes, and I don't think it's fair that he just got hired because he's friends with the owner.
No, but I'm sure it won't work out, so we'll see what happens.
No, I don't think so either, but I mean, based on the interviews that they've had, obviously they're gonna say they're all in on whatever, but it just sounds like they're going to hire him full time. And at first, I know in the beginning of this little segment, I was saying like I'm rooting for this to be a success. I'm not actually. Now that I've dived deeper in the article, because I think there's much more talented coaching out there and people that deserve an opportunity and that have good enough experience to be a head coach in the NFL. And this is just not the guy.
No. And Colts fans love this dude. He's a great guy. He's one of the best Colts of all time. But Tony Dungy said in an interview the other day, and
Love
the
Tony.
best,
He has my heart.
one of the best coaches of all time, best Colts head coach of all time.
Oh, yeah.
He told Dan Patrick that the Colts owner, Jim Irsay, did not consult him at all and basically said he would have advised him to not fire Frank Reich and to not hire Jeff Saturday. I guess Dungy found out at the same time as all of us did too.
Yeah. Oh, no. You disrespected Tony Dungy. I'm completely out. I
Sorry.
think there's a reason why we don't see a lot of players who are NFL head coaches. There's a reason.
Yeah,
Or not a
it doesn't-
player who's literally 10 years out of playing.
It doesn't seem to translate, but to not call Tony Dungy, that's kind of weird.
Oh, yeah. Someone who is, like you said, the most successful Colts head coach and the most experienced and well-rounded NFL coach. One of the greatest we'll probably see in our lifetime. And you have him probably on speed dial, but you don't call to consult him. Sketchy.
The Colts have been strange kind of this year. They benched Matt Ryan for a rookie who's probably not ready, could use a
No.
couple years to sit. I think they're throwing shit at the wall. They're praying something works.
Yeah. And I don't know. As a GM, I would not be just throwing shit at the wall.
I can only imagine the types of calls that the Indianapolis Colts reps are getting and will
Oh.
continue to get.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Honestly, like this is a different scenario, but it would be as if the Giants hired Eli Manning as our head coach. He only has his experience as a quarterback, first of all, and I would never trust him, even if it was 20, 30, 40 years down the line. I would not trust him with the experience he has now to coach the Giants. And this guy is similar, just that he's a different position. And I mean, I obviously don't know, but and as an NFL player, I don't think you're soaking in all aspects of the game and the coach. No.
There's just more that goes into it than
Yes.
the X's and O's on a field, truly. Glad it's not our teams.
No, thank goodness. For once, our teams are not in the news. I love it. For a negative thing.
That's facts. Well, good luck to the Colts. I wish you well.
I'm not rooting for you.
I don't have any sort of positivity for you. This was weird as fuck. So,
Yeah, still very questionable. A very dramatic storyline that will play out in the rest of the NFL season.
we love the drama. So, this
I
is
was
good
going to
shit for us.
say, we like it for the storyline, hate it for literally every single other aspect.
Facts. All right. Speaking of some dramatics, some sad dramatics, our last topic is about Brittney Griner. So she's being transferred from wherever she was at to a Russian penal colony. And I think they knew this was coming, but they're not telling her lawyers or her family where exactly she's going. So she's just in the cloud right now. It's very strange.
Yeah, it's very scary. And I didn't even know what a penal colony was. So we looked it up and it's much worse than where she was now, obviously. But it's a network of prison camps in which prisoners are housed in barracks and perform labor. And penal colonies are the descendants of Russia's Soviet era forced labor camps. So
That's a much different thing than what we experience in the United States if we go to jail.
yeah, it's different from her being in a jail cell to now going to a labor camp.
Right. And I'm not saying she didn't break a law or whatever. It's just an unfortunate situation for any U.S. citizen to be in. And I would hope that if any U.S. citizen was in this predicament, that people would be as upset as they are with Brittney Griner. Probably would not be because she's famous. But to have a citizen going to a penal colony for a vape pen, that shit's wild.
Yeah. And I think too, though, yes, she's getting coverage, but I also don't think she's getting as much coverage as you would
Mm-mm.
expect. And even when this incident initially first happened a few months ago, people were not talking about it. And I thought that was very suspicious and very strange. And then I think the media got enough pushback that I was like, what's going on here? You need to tell the people, is when they started reporting on it more. But I hadn't even heard that she was moved to a penal colony. This first sentence says, a move her family has dreaded since Griner's August conviction on drug charges, but her lawyers don't know where she is or where she's heading. That is petrifying.
What if we lose her? What if there's like, we
Yeah.
lost her? She's gone.
Yes, exactly. It's truly frightening, and I feel so bad for her. I could not imagine what she's going through mentally, emotionally, and physically. Awful.
This is what's so strange about it with the media. She's one of the best
Yep.
women's basketball players that we've ever seen. Let's imagine from a men's side. Someone like Ja Morant, let's say Ja Morant, for example, at this point, it happens to him. People are going to go nuts. We're going to talk about this every single day of our lives. If it's somebody like him or Tom Brady or whoever, it's not going to go a day without being talked about on every news outlet. So that's why it's so sad, because she's truly just not getting the coverage she would get if she were a man.
I think the lack of coverage is not just because she's a woman. I think it's because she's a Black woman, and I think it could also be
Facts.
because she's gay as well.
That's a triple whammy.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
media coverage.
Unfortunately, in our country, but in this world as well. Again, she's one of the best women's basketball players. So if you can even compare that directly to LeBron James. If this was happening to LeBron James, our country would be up in flames. They would be boycotting in the streets. They would figure it out. And I feel like our administration or the people fighting for him would have figured it out, where I just feel like there's a complete lack of, honestly, being totally frank, care about her being over there. Like, yeah, we're going to keep publishing our articles, which is great, but what are the action steps?
If it were truly LeBron James, I think it would honestly have political ramifications in this country.
Yeah.
With the
Yep.
elections.
I
That's how
completely agree.
dire it would be.
And I don't want to minimize the fact that, yes, she is getting coverage comparatively to other Americans who are taken prisoner or arrested for juvenile things like this. And it is really sad, but I feel like, yeah, as a country, we should be fighting for all of them.
Right. Even if they don't get any sort of coverage, which a normal citizen like you or I would not get coverage on this. And Joe Biden would not talk about us. He would not be bringing us back. So,
no, we would be gone. And I think it's just unfortunate scenario. And that's why I feel like when people talk about visiting another country and all that, like, yes, it's fun and great and awesome and an amazing experience, but make sure you read up on the country and their legal guide, all of that stuff. And as something as innocent as having a vape pod in the US, which is like whatever, is an awful thing, clearly, to get you arrested forever or about something in Russia. I'm just praying and hoping for her safety and the best for her. Like, as much as what I don't even know what you would say the best is, but, and I can only imagine just how her family, her friends, her community feels. I think that we definitely over here are thinking about her, and that's why I thought it was important we included this article, because I don't think she's getting the coverage that she deserves.
that's facts. I agree. That's very sad. That's a sad note to end on. Anything good to say? Anything positive in our lives?
Anything positive? Well, I think this episode is a positive because we have been trying to figure out how to like cover sports more, because obviously we want more of a focus on the podcast and doing fun subjects like hot takes and our Christmas bracket and all that good stuff is all good and fun. But at the end of the day, Kelsey and I are passionate about sports and we enjoy it and we want to cover more subjects that you wouldn't really see the traditional audience covering, I guess. And I think it's pretty cool that two females are coming together and covering the topics that we want to cover, like Aaron Rodgers' ugly man bun.
That's an important topic that needs to be discussed with the world. I agree. We got some good feedback on that.
People were very much for the hate on the man bun. And then there's just one person who was like, you're not going to appeal to a male audience. And we were like, okay, we don't care.
That was on the YouTube. Check out the YouTube channel.
Oh, that was on the YouTube? I went and looked at TikTok to see if it was there, and I thought you deleted the comment because I thought it was on TikTok.
No, it was on the YouTube. Check that one out.
Yeah, definitely check that out. TikTok, Reels, Instagram, all of the stuff.
All the stuff. Lots of fun. Lots of things to post on.
Yes. And if you have any feedback on the articles or what we talked about, we want to know your thoughts. And if there's any news coverage you want us to cover as well, we would
hit
love
us up.
to. Yeah, we're going to try to do these sports recaps kind of regularly just because I think we give a good, unique perspective.
We give the best perspective. We have great takes. So
the winning perspective.
We got to give my mom an update on sports somehow. So yeah, she's going to get it.
Yeah, this is true. This is all for Kelsey's mom. So if you guys have a mom that needs an update on sports, just send her this episode.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Next week, we are going to be comparing NFL players to Thanksgiving dishes. It is destined to be hilarious.
I literally can't wait.
I'm so excited. I gotta think of it. I'm ready to go.
It's gonna be really good and super fun and get everyone pumped up for Thanksgiving. But just bring up some subjects at your Thanksgiving dinner table because nobody wants to talk about the usual stuff that causes fights. At least in my house.
Don't talk about politics or religion. You talk about NFL players and what their Thanksgiving dish is.
Yes, so if you want to tune into that and see when it's upcoming, make sure to check out our link tree, where you can also find the description of this episode, Sports Recap number 1. As always, the link tree is our one-stop shop for you to find all of our social media accounts, and also sign up to share your fandom story with us or come on the pod and we can interview you.
And so you don't miss any of the upcoming podcast episodes, subscribe to us on whatever platform you listen on: Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, Amazon, whatever. We're there.
As always, thank you, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.